Hi, it's Paul Vanis with GreatDad.com, and thank you for joining this special, extra, complimentary episode of Great Dad Talks, where we're speaking specifically about resilience and how to get it. And I'm interviewing different experts on resilience, mostly coaches who are talking about their success in helping people gain this very important life skill, how to bounce back from everyday challenges, big and small. I would invite you to also come and spend some time with me talking about my own approach to resilience and any of the issues that you have around fatherhood. You can find a scheduling link at GreatDad.com/go. Okay, see you in a minute. Hey, it's Paul Vanis with GreatDad.com, and I'm here with my weekly series talking to dads about modern fatherhood and being a father and how you can help your family stay strong and make the best for your kids. And I've got a guest today, John Geyston, who's going to talk to us a little bit about his new book, but also about how you can help kids develop resilience, emotional intelligence, all these great skills that we want them to have, but sometimes it's a question mark, like how do you really get that into them, get those lessons into them. So welcome, John.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Paul. I enjoy being here and I appreciate you inviting me on. So,
Yeah, so I'm interested in your trajectory, first of all, because you're segueing a little bit into life coaching, kind of into my area, but you've been really working on martial arts for the last 42 years, starting now. You have uh, two schools, and that's the basis of a lot of your thinking, but not necessarily. I don't think, from what I understand, you don't feel like every kid has to do martial arts to have these skills. So tell me a
right.
little bit about your background in martial arts and what that provided for you and
Yeah. Well,
how.
is the martial arts I was asked to start teaching, and really it kind of just fell into. I got into the martial arts. I did it three different times. Did it when I was 9 because I was being bullied. Did it when I was 15 because I was still attracted to it. I always joke. I say this in tongue in cheek. My instructors when I was 9 and 15 make John Kreese from Karate Kid look like a nice guy.
Oh
They
yeah.
just nobody really related to kids.
Oh
Most of them were military guys that came back, so I was joke. I told my mom once when I was 9, I just did a summer program. And I'm like, I went from being made fun of and having kids pick on me to now I have a full grown adult man who's very dangerous and breaks bricks and everything, call me stupid and tell me I'm
oh, that's not
you
good.
know so there's something missing there, right? But I there was something that continued to attract me to that wanting to do it. And at 18, 19, I discovered that in a community college, and here was all these people that were my age, just a 2-year community college, and these guys were doing it, and whatever. I'd walk past it for about a month, and then one day somebody come out and I go, "Hey, what are you guys doing there? What style?" And a year later, fast forward, my instructor asked me to take that program over because the instructor it's a 2-year college. He got his degree and he was gone. He took a job. He did what you're
Yeah.
supposed to do, right? And I fell into it. I just loved it. And it was probably the first time in my life where I felt I added some type of value to somebody, including myself.
Hmm.
And I kind of fell into that. And just, at one point, I think there was in the beginning when I'm coaching, it was coaching people my age, 19, 20, 21. And I was going to create the greatest team ever. We're going to go out, we're going to kick everybody's butts in the tournament, and we're going to do well. And then I realized people are saying, man, this changed my life. I'm more positive. And all these little things were being said. I'm like, wow. And then I realized I was teaching kids things at 10 that I didn't understand until I was, later in life. In my mid 20s, I started realizing I'm starting to realize things that nobody ever taught me when I was young. And I'm like, what if, in addition to teaching great karate, and if they win a medal or whatever, but in those trials and tribulations and challenges of training, setting goals, and doing all this, I could teach them the mindset that's going to transfer to everything else that they're doing in life.
Hmm.
So it didn't have to be. I obviously, I always say, well, it's you can lose. Your team in baseball could lose, and you may have played the greatest. You may have went for 4 for 4 and had no errors in your position, but the team lost.
Right.
But when you're in an individual sport, and it's you and another person, you're in jujitsu and some dude's just smashing you, you cannot move and you are behind on points. How you think in your mind, I have a bad situation. First, I need to defend and make sure I don't get hurt from this position. What can I do to inch by inch improvement to come up in a better position and come back in life? And that's just those steps alone of getting out of side control. If I can transfer that into a message that you, no matter what you're facing, I have a 22-year-old guy who's just went through his first major breakup, and I'm coaching him the same way I'd coach a 10-year-old because, hey man, it happens. It's life experience. It's what would you do if this was this? Mm-hmm. And we can relay that, but the message I think is totally unrelated to martial arts. I think it's regardless of what you're doing. If it's my best friend no longer talks to me, I love baseball, but I can't make the team because I'm not physically good. What the first girl that broke my heart, people making fun of me, I'm bullied, I'm getting, there's so many challenges today. I think that we all had challenges, right? But the challenges change because now I could get away from the bullies when I went home.
Right.
When I was growing up. But now you could follow me on social media for 24/7 and just make my life miserable. So
I'm interested in the idea that for you, martial arts wasn't, I guess for you, it was a way into a new type of thinking, and martial arts isn't necessarily just the answer. I mean, when I'm recruiting podcast guests, I get a lot of people who just say, if you go to the gym every day, you're going to turn into this other person. But you're talking about taking kind of the lessons of the martial arts and in some way, I don't know, repackaging them for your individual martial arts students. Then we're going to talk a little bit about your book too. But is that kind of the way you're thinking, that's helped expand your mind and develop models that you can then somehow communicate to your students?
Yeah, I think so. For me, yes, 100%. And I think that my childhood helped contribute to that. I lost my father when I was 4 years old. My mother was 17 when she had me. So now you're talking about a woman who dropped out of high school to give birth to me, get married. Her husband gets killed in a car accident when she's 21. She has no high school education. She has 2 kids, a 6-month-old and a 4-year-old. Wow. And to me, it felt like I was the only person that didn't have a father back then. And I'm certain there were other people that didn't, but to me, I felt isolated. And I never had that role model. And then my family, we became separated from my father's family. And then I felt like, what is it that they don't like about me? No. So I think all these little pains and troubles, and I don't even want to say it was real. I don't know if it was real, but it was real here. And then trying out for sports and stuff and not doing as well as other kids did. And it was always frustrating me too, as I played shortstop and second base in baseball. I love baseball. And my passion for it was greater than my skill set. But it was like every year, guess who played shortstop? The coach's son. So I sat the bench and the coaches, and I'm like, then I resented people that have fathers, right?
Oh yeah. Oh wow.
So I went through this of, I think, not understanding who I was, where I fit in with a family, self-esteem, and what I missed. And I think there were many contributing factors. I had a great baseball coach that later was one of my bosses when I was in my 20s and working for the state of Illinois. And he was one of my uncle's friends, and it was a very few guy that sat with me and would talk to me about life. And then obviously the martial arts. So I think the martial arts for me related that my connection to find out who I was came through the mentoring and that conversation.
Oh, right. Okay.
That conversation after class, sitting with a mentor that respected and was trying to guide me on to do better. And you needed someone to say, hey, you're wrong here. Or you needed someone to say, you're doing great there. Yeah. And to be a little bit better, let's try this. So to me, I think maybe the upbringing made me gravitate maybe more towards that than the physical.
Yeah.
And then
it sounds like you were looking for another male role model, as you unconsciously that filled some of that void. Right. I grew up without a dad present in the house too. I know that feeling of really having that absence and not knowing how to fill it. And luckily there were role models who kind of stepped in and played that part. Maybe not the same way a dad does, but do you think that is there a lesson in there for four kids who are growing up, or I guess single moms looking, to figure out how to find that father figure in their lives, is to find something like martial arts or other activities to provide that
Yeah,
role. And how
I
would you find
definitely,
that person? Like, you were lucky the
right.
second go around, but the
Yeah.
first go around was a bust.
Yeah. And I probably didn't find that till I was 19.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say probably at 14 is the gentleman I talked about, that the baseball coach that would sit with me. And I remember he jokes about this. He joked about this when I'm 27 and I'm working with him, and we're at lunch with a bunch of guys. And he goes, Johnny played ball for me. And he goes, he was better than he gives himself credit for. And he was fast. He was good on the field. You couldn't get a ball, and I'm like, oh, okay. But he tells the funny story about, I played him for 3 innings, and he goes, we go out in the fourth inning, and I don't have a shortstop. I'm looking around. I'm like, where's he at? He's sitting on the bench because I was so programmed that the next kid was going in. I wasn't
Oh,
playing the
right.
game.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you doing? I go, oh, I didn't know I was playing the whole game. And he grabs me by the shoulder and look at me. I believe in you. That's your position all innings, all year. Get out there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the first time someone said, I believe in you. And that made a difference, because there's a saying I use often. I am not who I think I am. I am not who you think I am, but I am who I think you think I am, if I said that right. So
I don't think I could have that embroidered
he
today.
made me believe, I thought he believed I was good enough to be out there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it wasn't that I was me saying I'm good enough to be out there, or with him saying, it's what I thought he thought about me. And I think that was a really, and I think I maybe didn't even understand that at 14. But as I started coaching people, I realized how valuable that was. And one day I repeated that. And I'm like, where did that come from? Well, that came
Hmm.
from Cunningham coaching me at shortstop at 14 years of age. Right. So
Yeah.
I think we need that voice. And I think when we are in a culture of division, mine was lost by, you know, uh, unfortunate early death of my father being killed in a car accident, but divorce, separation, or people that don't even want to be a part of their kids' lives. And that's no fault of the child. But I
Certainly.
do believe there's a balance. There's at some point, and this is that I know that people will debate this every once in a while. And I say this with a heart of compassion and empathy. I do believe boys need to know how to be a man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
mom can't teach me that.
Yeah.
And I need, when I saw your podcast, I'm like, I would love, dads about dads, because I think we do need the male role models. We definitely need male role models in our life,
Yeah,
because
I'm not ashamed to take the stand. I'm not a conservative person by any stretch of the imagination,
yeah,
but I do believe in the value of a mom and a dad, because they play different roles and they have complementary effects on their kids. And ideally, that's the structure that works best. And couples with other types of social situations, they find other ways to bring in those role models, consciously or unconsciously. So it's not like that's an evil thought that we need moms and dads or males and females. And I totally in sync with you that
yeah,
the
good,
maleness, the masculinity, those kind of role models are so important for boys and for girls as well.
right, yeah. I mean, if whatever it is that I want to be, and when we seek mentors in our life, we're seeking people that we perceive to have something that we don't have.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? Well, if I'm an 11-year-old boy, I don't know how to act like a man until I know how a man acts.
right.
Does he open the door? Does he say I love you? I mean, maybe if I come from a family environment that doesn't do that, how do I know how to treat? How do I
Right.
know how to treat a spouse? And the same thing. How do I know how to believe in myself? How do I know what I should believe? How do I know that it's okay to take a position and stand on what your firm belief is? But be open minded enough to know if I'm wrong.
Yeah, yeah. And that is harder if you don't have a strong mentor in your life, or a father, or a mother, for that fact. So flash forward 40 years, you've got this book called Embrace Your Awesome, which is I think it sounds like it's chapters on different subjects, but then there's a journaling component. When you
Yes.
went to set up to think about that book, how did you was the development of that book, was it related to both the lessons that you learned and then the lessons that you impart in the martial arts that you do, like every day at the end of the day, did you like, oh my God, I was, I had this session today and in the end I was able to talk about this thing and I never kind of phrased it that way. And I put a form around it and it makes for a good anecdote or a way to
Yeah,
show
yeah,
that concept.
yeah, definitely. I think in the, not to sound pretentious, but when I realize when I'm carrying this message that how can I take what I'm talking about to the people that trust me within these four walls? Because I'm confined to that. How many students can I actually have?
Yeah.
In this big world, it's very minuscule, right? So how can I take that message and relay it to someone beyond my four walls? And I say, when I'm writing this, my whole intention was like, what advice can I give in this book that I needed to hear when I was 9? Can I be the voice for that 9-year-old that I would have loved to have someone tell me when I was 9?
Right.
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 And that was the thing. And talk, a little bit about the book too was when, and this goes back to a mentor. When I was a freshman in high school, I was told I had a 6th grade reading level. And they wanted to put me in a class, a special class to read.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my high school was brand new and it went to this open room concept. There was no walls, no doors, it was like open down the hallways, you saw every class. And they put the lady who's going to teach the class, they put her in the closet. They clean out a custodian. There's about 4 of us in the school that needed help with reading. And every day I would go to the bathroom and wait till the bell, everybody was in their classroom, and then I'd come in class late. And then I'd ask to go to the bathroom 5 minutes before the bell rang because I never wanted no one to see me coming in and out of that door. And this goes to show you mentoring. And now this was from a female. And she asked me one day, she goes, "Hey, can I ask you why you come in late and leave early?" And I go, "Yeah." And I said, "Can I be honest?" And she goes, "Yeah." I go, "This is for special kids. I don't want everybody to know I'm stupid." She goes, "You're not stupid." She goes, "You need help with reading, but you're not stupid. You're bright. When I talk to you, I can, She goes, "All right, I'm going to cut you a deal. You give me your best effort when you're in here. You come in 5 minutes late, leave 5 minutes early. No one will ever know you're coming in and out here." But and I was an honor roll student the following year. That means this woman helped me in 1 year, but she also told me, "I'm going to not put you in an awkward position." That was, I think, the first person that talked to me about being talked to me opposed to at me.
Sure.
And so writing the book too, I wanted to pay that tribute back to this woman who that was a major shift in my life. And I think if we look back at, all these different shifts and all these different people, what they taught us. So, the book was one. I always tell everybody when I speak on this book to events, I spoke to a couple of grade schools where they had me come in and speak an assembly. Our present doesn't define our future. And listen to the mentors, listen to believe in ourselves. And some of you may not be, I'm going to tell you right now, all of you were smarter than I was at your age. And you're reading my book. And the only reason you're able to read my book is because someone believed in me and I believe that she believed in me. And I gave her my best effort. And I think that's letting everybody know too, it's okay to feel like you're down right now. It's okay to feel defeated. It's okay to have a 6th grade reading level at freshman year, as long as I'm correcting it. Now, if I'd had that still a senior year, I probably wouldn't have the life I have today of running businesses and writing a book, right?
Right.
But we had to accept that I didn't understand, that I had a weakness, and someone was willing to help turn that weakness into a strength if I would accept that I had that. And, the book is in a lot of these premises of life. Yes, all these things happen through the martial arts. It's the martial arts, I think, creates one structure. It creates a mindset of challenges. I said a short term, the stripe is going to lead me. I got to get 4 stripes before I get to my next belt. And so there's these steps of goal setting. It's naturally built in. But I think, yes, you can find that through a football coach. You can find that through a teacher.
Right.
Someone who's teaching kids, and I don't want to say special, that was me using that term back then, lacking understanding, but feeling down on myself. And if you take the self-esteem was not in my life at that point. I thought I was a loser from the time I was 4 to the time I was probably 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, what am I going to do with my life? I'm not. But I would see little hints of coming along the way. And I think the martial arts naturally, there's going to times I lose. You know, I tell people, to this day, I have a very successful jujitsu team. I tell if you're out there, you're winning because you're doing something to challenge yourself, to put yourself on the line to potentially lose in front of everybody. You can't hide that loss, and it's you. It's not a team. You don't have 8 other people that to blame on this team. It's you.
Yeah.
You lost today, but you also won
So
today.
that's a big life lesson there that I think that frustrates a lot of parents. Some parents, if you have a kid who's out there is doing sports, is doing theater, is doing whatever, running for president, everything, you're all like, oh yeah, go go go. But they're quite often. I mean, the vast majority of the kids, the ones that we don't talk about. We always talk about the stars. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the nature of the business. But the kids who are like they're hanging back, they're not jumping in, they're afraid or whatever. Those are the ones that I worry about because, like you say, if you're not in it, you're not learning, you're not progressing, and you're not being a better version of yourself. What advice do you have for parents who see that and they love their kids, they know the kids have it in them, but they just can't get them off the couch or get them away from the video game or just get them beyond just doing what they can to get by.
Yeah. You know, my favorite phrase there is inch by inch is a cinch. And I think what it is we think we're going to take this kid who has zero self-esteem into this extrovert who's going to be a leader. And, maybe right now it's a just jumps in to the group. Maybe it's right now he introduces himself to one other person before he starts introducing himself to a room. Inch by inch, what can I do to guide them towards that direction of doing? And again, I think this is where the nature of me coming up into martial arts is like, okay, I can't be an orange belt till I'm a yellow belt. So, everything was a step. There was never anything that, you didn't become a black belt overnight. You had to earn these stripes, you had to earn these belts. Well, how do I take that now and tell someone with self-esteem, okay, what's he doing better? Is he more open to raise his hand in class and ask a question where he wouldn't have done that a year ago? Has he introduced himself or talked to a stranger or I don't want to say stranger, but a kid that he doesn't know
Yeah.
or on the team, and he just says, "Hi, how you doing?" Maybe he didn't come out and say, "Hey, I'm Paul. How are you?" Oh, that's great. Well, what do you do? But maybe it's just like, "Hi, I'm John."
Right.
That right there is success because, and I think we always look for that big end result and we're not rewarding. And he needs to hear that was the right direction, even if it was that much.
So how do you stimulate that so it sounds to the child that it's a worthwhile step to take. I mean, I get it if they are doing it, if they finally
Sure.
move out of the group and they introduce themselves, that's a big step, and you shouldn't just like, oh, why aren't you president now? Kind of like reaction, but like congratulate them on doing that one thing. But if they won't even do it and they say, that's awkward or I'm not, how
I
do
think,
you
yeah,
feed them
I
at
think
the
it is to explore it. Like, why do you think it's awkward? Why do you think? And then, I think the easiest one, the directions I like to go there, I should say, the easiest one for me to go and when I'm asked a question like that is to say, if, when have you ever been in a situation, did you feel better when that kid at church or that kid at soccer or that kid in science class came up to you and said hi and talked to you? Did you feel better? Right. So that's not awkward. Can you be that for someone else who might be shyer
yeah
than you at this point?
yeah yeah
And in one of we have these creeds, mantras that we do. And when I say eyes like a laser beam, ears like a radar, that's teaching the kids the focus part. And we tell that, but then we'll always say a little bit better today, a little bit better tomorrow, a little bit better the next day. And then someday it's going to be that much better. And that's me telling him it's okay for you to mess that kick up today. It's okay for you to start to walk up to someone and chicken out, but at least you walked. Now,
yeah
next time, I want you to see if you can just say hi,
yeah
or can you make eye contact? And I think if we acknowledge that and give some type of little bit of a push, but also congratulate them on that small victory. Small victory was he walked into a group and he may have faded back out, but at least he walked into the group.
Yeah.
And but I think sometimes we have to understand how they feel. I feel like that's awkward. I feel like that's weird. I hear that from my kids
Yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah, all the time. Yeah.
You know, my kids 20, 21, 20, and 14. They're like, well, that's not how they do it anymore. I said, well, I think people have been talking to people for centuries, and I'm pretty sure that's no different than it was, you know, it was the same in 896 BC as it is today. But okay, if you believe it's different than it was when I was growing up, you can believe that. But tell me why you believe that. And you know, rather than arguing about the phrase, let's talk about why you believe that. And then start rationalizing a little bit why they might be just a little bit off on the mark on that opinion.
Mhm. So in the book is really geared toward kids 8 through 12, and you're going through a lot of big concepts here. Like I said, emotional intelligence, resilience, emotional well-being, defining the idea of happiness, which are that's a huge thing in itself. How do you well, I guess how do you make those chapters compelling so that if I were to give this book to a child who's 9 or 10, they would want to read that and interact with the journaling part rather than just saying, oh, well, that's another, that's a more empty advice,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
some old person wants to give to me.
yeah. What I think there was a little bit of practice in because my audience in my four walls was that age group. So as I'm talking to you, those words were a little bit different, you
Yeah,
know, and
right.
and then having a
You're
great
not
end.
you're not saying, oh, do you want to develop
Yeah, I don't
resilience in your
I don't
life?
even say resilience. I'll
Right.
say, for I'll make up words sometimes. Like when I'm trying to teach someone to perseverance, I don't use that perseverance. I say stick to itiveness.
Right.
If you're going to do something, stick to it till you
Yeah.
get the result that you're looking for. Stick
Right.
to it. Stick to itiveness is a good thing. And they'll be, look, sir, I don't know where that word's at. And I go, I just made it up. I say, when you have the belt that I have, my own building, I can create my own vocabulary. But it's just trying to relate to terms, and then having as a joke, it's a great editor because my editor would write me back and say, I don't think an 11-year-old would use that word. What other word could you put there? And I had a lot of those conversations.
Mhm.
So trying to make that into today's language. But I think when obviously when I'm talking to another adult, we're talking a little bit about how the language would be if talking to that. So my editor was very good to make sure that my language was at that reading level of that age group I
Mhm.
was. And then I'd have to go back and I didn't know the words. I'd sit there and I'd think, okay. And I may even go back to the class that night and try to teach that. And then how am I going to say it? And I found how I want to say that phrase because I put it to practice on the mat. But I think it's with anything. I have to relate the vocabulary, but I also have to relate the meaning. And one of my favorite sayings to my staff is words need to be heard, but they need to be felt more than they're heard. What can we do to make them feel the understanding of what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It should be felt. There should be an emotion tied to every coaching moment that I'm having.
Mhm. You speak, I can tell you speak a lot in aphorisms, old-fashioned sayings, some that you've made up and some that come from popular culture. Do you think
Yeah,
that's an important part of raising kids or mentoring kids is using those, those platitudes and repeating those as almost a mantra so that they come alive in a child's imagination?
I do. At least me. I know for me that's what helped me. It was
Mhm.
I can't. If we sat down right now, I wouldn't be able to tell you what year the Gettysburg Address or even, four scores and seven. That's about as far as I can go with that, right? I can't tell you, but I can tell you the exact phrase that I referred to her as the lady in the closet, who was the teacher, right?
Right.
And I told her, I said, I call you the lady in the closet. And she goes, I prefer you not call me that anymore.
Yeah, I can
We'd
imagine.
have these conversations. But I can remember exactly what she said to me that I felt. And I'll use those phrases or I'll hear them later in training in life, being around gurus or attending self-improvement conferences and mastermind groups. And I'm like, oh, I can relate to that. That's exactly what happened to me at this age. And that phrase is there. So for me, it's my memory bank. It's easier for me to remember that moment and those type of things. And I think if, and again, I'm going to come back to the martial arts without using the martial arts. I no longer study the same martial arts. I haven't studied the first style I got a black belt in back in 85. I don't study that stuff. But every once in a while, I'll start a movement and then I can run the entire kata because once I start here, it reminds me what steps next. Mm-hmm. And I like to use those phrases as that first point, and then I know where I go from off of that. And it's that mind shift. Do I wake up with an attitude of gratitude? There's a phrase that we all know, but I always tell the kids, every time you wake up, try to think of 3 things that make you happy today. You had a bed to sleep in. Your mom drove you to school. Your mom packed your lunch. There's 3 things I can think of right off the bat. Yeah. But it's easy for you to say, oh man, I hate science today. I got that stupid exam. I got this going on. Jimmy's going to be a jerk to me on the bus. It's so easy to start focusing on the negative. But if we start the day off thinking about what's right in life, that's a much better way, right? So the attitude of gratitude, when I say that phrase, they can tell me what that means. And they can tell me, what's my 3 things that I'm happy for today? What do I end the day with the 3 victories that I did, regardless of how small they are? Yeah. Maybe I didn't get an A, but I took my math from a D to a C. This test was better. I got 5 points higher than I did last time. And those are those small victories, a little bit better today, a little bit better tomorrow, a little bit better the next day. Yeah. So I like to use those phrases because I think it puts us in our train of thought to where we need to go. And if they hear it enough, they know where to continue the form, continue the pattern.
Yeah, great. Well, I'd love to see the book. I've not read the book actually, but it's directed to,
I'll get your address after this and send you
yeah, okay. I look forward to it because I'm interested in how you communicating to kids 8 through 12. That's obviously such an important group, and I know there's a journaling component there where kids get a chance to reflect on how that relates to their own experience.
Yeah, and I think that was important for me to do too, because I just didn't want to, as you heard me say earlier, she was the first person that talked with me and not at me. So I wanted okay, I'm going to talk to you about why positive self-talk is important. And then I prompt you with 5 or 6 questions about that. Can you recall a time that you used that? Can you recall a time when you didn't have and you said negative, something bad about yourself? You had a negative thought, said something negative or said something bad about yourself. How'd that make you feel? And it's that time to be reflective of that, right? Every day I need to be reflective and we try to teach them at the end of the night, be reflective. I talk to them about, if you're learning here, when you sparred or rolled jujitsu today, what did you feel you did right? What did you feel you did wrong? And what area can you ask me or the other coaches to help you improve the area that you didn't do as well in? And I like them to be reflective. I think being reflective is a thing that's not taught. And I know I'm 62 now. I know when I was coming up, you should not reflect your emotions. That would be weakness.
Yeah.
Be a tough boy. Boys don't cry. Yes, boys should cry. Boys should understand how they feel, but not live there. Let's move on past it. Man, I felt bad today, or that hurt me. Moving past that. So the reflective part, that journal, is I wanted it to be, that's exactly my belief when I'm coaching, is I want you to understand not only what I said, but tell me what you heard and tell me how it relates to you.
Good. Well, I think anything that develops these habits of changing your mindset and really keeps you in that is a good thing. And again, the book is not focused on martial arts. Your understanding is the melding of your 40 plus years of teaching kids and adults in martial arts, along with a lot of the other studies that you've done to put together this book called Embrace Your Awesome, which is available on Amazon.
Yes. Yeah. And available on my direct link. Do it in my website too, John Geyston.com.
Yeah, and we'll put that in the show notes. Okay, John. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. I'm curious as always as to how kids learn these things and how we as dads can model them for them. But in the case of where the dad isn't present, as many other ways to get that influence in is really key.
Yes, I agree, and that was one of the reasons when you and I first had a conversation about being a guest. I just felt like this was a great thing because I felt that I lived that, and I understood where that male role model played in my life, but not only male role models, it just mentors and role models.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Paul Vance with GreatDad.com. Thank you very much for joining me, John. And if you want to learn more about my coaching, as well as I've got a course on gratitude that you can get for free or $1. It's a 6-week course on a lot of these skills and the scientific underpinnings of why gratitude is so important in mental health. You can get that at GreatDad.com/go. Okay. Until next time, stay strong.
Thank you, Paul.